All right, it is 6:01 p.m. and I hereby call this meeting of the Louisville City Council to order. We have a quorum. We, of course, just got the reminder that the microphones are up and we are being live broadcast, which I think is a great new feature that staff's been able to set up moving forward, that we'll be able to have these available for our residents, both live and historically, so I'm very excited about that. First up is the workshop. So let's see here. What have we got? We've got the Director of Parks and Leisure Services, Stacy Anaya, along with Thrive Manager Erica Tang and Park Development and Operations Manager Michael Kim, have a PowerPoint for us to review, which should be exciting because it's parks.
All right, Mayor, council members, park fans, my name is Stacy Anaya. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Louisville, and I have with me Erica Tang and Michael Kim, who are going to join me. We're going to talk to you a little bit about a neighborhood park development that we've been working on in the neighborhood that we call the Triangle. So a little bit of project history. Back in 2017, we joined the 10-minute walk to a park initiative that started by the Trust for Public Land, and we were really able to go through some mapping exercise to identify where we might have park deserts in town, where we didn't have a open space or park in areas that people could walk there within 10 minutes. We might have it as the crow flies, people could drive, but there were several areas that were identified as a park desert. And as we rolled into 2018 and started our master plan update, we set the goal to hit a 10-minute walk to a park for all the residents in town. And we kind of got it, we got a National Recreation and Park grant for it, where we set some measures. By 2025, we'd hit 85% of our residents are within a 10-minute walk to a park. And then by 2035, we want to be at 100%. When we started the initiative, we're at the 60 range. We're now hovering around 70%. And so we're making strides towards our goals. And then in 2019, the Urban Land Institute did a national study visit to help us focus on this neighborhood known as the Triangle, to help us come up with some ideas of how to bridge that desert, that gap there, because it's landlocked, there's limited land, and we didn't really have enough relationships with people in the neighborhood to help us figure that out. And so they put together a report which is tantamount to a small area plan for that neighborhood, which really encouraged the city to increase our community engagement there, identify partners where we could help us get into the neighborhood, make some investments, have strategies for how people could invest in the neighborhood, not just the city, but private businesses and other governmental entities, and then also specifically how we could bridge that park access and walkability gap. And just like we do in Louisville, we took that area plan and we ran, right? We started moving that year in 2019. We did movement on the Parkway, where we shut down Southwest Parkway and did a pop-up park to start that engagement process and build trust with the neighborhood, but also to find out if we needed a park there. We started the Play Louisville on Wheels program, where we started going out to places where we didn't have park access and engaging residents there. And then we engaged ITS on a sidewalk improvements on State Highway 121, where we found out TxDOT is actually looking to make improvements to the sidewalks there to help walkability on that western edge of the neighborhood. And then in 2022, we signed our agreement with LISD for schoolyard parks to serve as parks in the evening, and that's that blue square up there just to the left outside of the neighborhood. We increased our deplowments, the Play Louisville on Wheels deployments, and then we negotiated a trail and trailhead into the driving range redevelopment just to the southeast there. And then this year, we've really worked to accelerate the Timber Creek Trail extension. We were able to do that because some of the grants we got with DCDA to accelerate other trail things. And then we've purchased the property that's highlighted in lime green here. We've hired Kimley Horn to help us design the park. We're working on a complete street design with our friends from Planning and Neighborhood Services on and engineering on how we might get a complete street on Southwest Parkway, and you'll hear a little more about that later today. And then we've been working with engineering to make sure that we negotiate with TxDOT connection and access as that new overpass at Corporate Drive is built. So we make sure that all these improvements and connectivity initiatives that we have are connect to the rest of the park system, but also where people work and shop. And so I'm going to hand it over to Erica Tang, who's going to talk a little bit about what our neighborhood engagement and design process has been like.
Hello, so as Stacy mentioned, we really focused on community engagement in this area. And in 2019, we had a Movement on the Parkway event where we shut down Southwest Parkway. And what this event told us is the residents there need a park, and we could tell from the event. We created gathering spaces in different areas for play and engagement at the event. We brought in shade structures and trees and plant material to soften the street and make it more of a park feeling. And then we wanted the residents to have safe access to a park, and that's what we heard from this event. The green strip that you see to the right is one of the activities that we had at the event. So it was a placemaking exercise where these green butcher paper covered 3 6-foot tables, so it's about 18 foot long. And what we did is we put out markers and stickers and had the residents and the kids come up, and we said draw or write what you would want to see if you had a park in your neighborhood. And so this was kind of the premise of what the concept designs will show later, and Mike will touch on. So in 2019 and 2021, we really focused on the deplowments, going out into the community and making those relationships. We met the residents, the kids, the parents, and started weaving ourselves into the fabric of that neighborhood and learning their wants and their needs. At the design kickoff meeting for Kimley Horn, we engaged all of the city departments so we could hear everybody's concerns to what the neighborhood park would need, ways to improve it, and how we can make that a safe place for the residents there. Through the process, we've met a lot of neighborhood advocates. We've created relationships with the apartment community managers, and they are really our voice to the residents. They help push out any message and any communication that we need to get out to them. And we've also engaged with Next Step Center. We partner with them over the summer. They do a summer feeding program, and we partner with them and offer play to the kids after they have their meal. They've also been big partners in the Movement on the Parkway event, bringing out volunteers and providing some of the activities that we have. University of North Texas has been another big group that we've worked with. They put out a health and physical activity survey where they sent it out to their residents so we could learn about their habits, how physically fit they are, how much of a priority they put on healthy food and food access. They also added air quality monitors to the area, knowing that it's locked by 35, 121 business and corporate. We wanted to see what the air quality was in the area with the traffic and different times of different days. And lastly, with UNT, the urban policy and planning class used this site as a project, and the picture to the bottom right is what they came out with this project. Some recommendations that they had for site and safety. So for 2021, to engage the community and find out their needs and wants for this park, we went out to each apartment community 4 times specifically to talk about the park and what they would want to see in the park. And so that's the dot exercise that you can see on the bottom. These ideas came from what we heard in the 2019 event and then confirmed with the residents what they wanted. The design consultants, Kimley Horn and UNT, helped us with this, and we're on site engaging with the residents. And then we did the dotocracy exercise. So everybody that came out got 5 dots, and they could put their dots on the top features that they would want to see in the park. And then this weekend, we are having our Movement on the Parkway event on Saturday, September 18th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You guys are all welcome to come out and join us. We will verify the concepts that Kimley Horn has sent for this project and make sure that we're going in the right direction for the residents and what they've said, and make sure we heard what they said. And then we'll use this for the grant application for Texas Park and Wildlife money. And then lastly, at the event, we'll solicit input for the name of the park and planning for activation. And then I'm going to hand it over to Mike so he can talk about the concept designs.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm going to be touching upon the concept plans that were worked on by Kimley Horn, our design consultants, and talk a little bit about the ideas where we're currently at with the design process. So what you see here on concept A is a diagram that basically groups 3 major themes and areas that Kimley Horn came up with. You're going to see this in the second concept as well. Park resilience, that's related to our natural resources and protecting those resources. And then B, which is the blue area, nature and outdoor learning. And then C, community fellowship and active recreation. These were 3 major themes that were brought up by our community during the engagement process, and used this as drivers really to kind of organize and create the design. Moving on, you have for concept A the programming, and really this is showing how we're activating the space. As you can see with Southwest Parkway, and on the east side of the property, I-35, you see 2 buffer zones. A gateway on the northwest side, really where the connection to the community is, and then various sizes and scales of spaces for large events or smaller intimate spaces, and then definitely points of education and learning for the community, for nature and outdoor. And then this is the conceptual plan, Kimley Horn design for the very first one, concept A, and associated with each space, you can see some of those images. Idea of the farmer's market, a playground, open space, definitely nature classrooms, nature areas, and then definitely introducing the more native plant vegetation, plant material in the cross timbers and that natural drainage area at the south. And then here you see the community input, as Erica alluded to earlier, in regards to the green butcher papers, where we had the community come out in 2019 and really give their input and their ideas. And as you can see, a lot of these ideas and concepts are now represented and shown in what Kimley Horn designed. These ideas were given to us by a lot of the parents and the children. This was started by them and not by staff or anybody. The conversation, yes, the city started, but a lot of these things and these ideas were produced by the community members themselves. So going into concept B, as you can see, the first concept was a little more geometric in style and design. A lot of use of the circle to create boundaries and create organization within the site. Here you see a little more linear, following more of the topography of the site. As you can see right there in the orange beige color for letter C, community fellowship, that really is the flatter part of the space. And as you get higher up or go further east, the elevation changes and you get more of a vantage point. So more of the nature and outdoor learning can happen there, as well as more intimate spaces. And here is concept B, programming, how we're organizing the space. Again, major components that were brought up by the community that are still important. The gateway, definitely buffers next to the major roadways to protect them from vehicular traffic. Outdoor learning areas right at the south edge of the property, taking advantage of the natural resources, and then community gathering spaces, open space, and active play and recreation. And then this is concept B, with all the images, again, the farmer's market, the playground. A lot of the same components, a lot of the same drivers as to why we're doing this, but just a different look and a different design for the community to choose between A and B. And then again, for concept design B, the input from the community, as you can see, there's, play structures from Crystal, discussing a bridge to a playground, and then here, I guess a pasture with farmland and a barn. I don't know if we can put the barn there, but.
So you're implying you can get the cow?
Maybe the cow. And then here we have the project cost and timeline. The cost estimate for concept A is approximately $2.1 million. For concept B, $1.8 million. This does not include the allowance for the broadband, which we want to introduce to the site for access to technology and Wi-Fi. And then a couple things I want to point out in the timeline. It's kind of hard to see from here, but I think you have it in your screen. Currently, where we are is presenting the concepts that we have. So we're really right in the middle of this timeline right here. And then we are working to submit a TPWD grant application for this project. So closer to 2022 in March, April is when we're going to have a better idea of it. Contingent on the grant, as you can see at the very end, that red star might be the playground groundbreaking, contingent on the grant. But those are some milestones that you can look over. We are on schedule based on this timeline, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of the conceptual design of the timeline. I'll hand it back to Stacy.
Thanks, Mike. So obviously, we're going to have to look at several funding strategies for this. We use CDBG funds to pick up the property, and we'll try to use CDBG funds to square it off and buy that piece that used to be the enterprise area. We're using park development funds and 4B funds for the design of the park, and then with construction, we're going to kind of use a hodgepodge of all of those things. We have park development funds and 4B funds set aside for the matching requirement for TPWD. And we'll be looking, for other grants in terms of other conservation funds that supply grants. The American Recovery Act, we've got the Regional Council of Governments that gives up stuff. And then we have private grants and partners that we are going to reach out to make it happen. If we don't have all the funding right at the beginning, we'll phase it accordingly based on some of the priorities that we hear about on Saturday. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Grant, we'll bring a resolution for approval to apply to y'all next week. It's a $750,000 grant with a 100% match requirement. We've got that in cash, but also we got a waiver of retroactivity so that we can use the purchase of the property to help us with that. And then like Mike said, we'll wait nervously until we get the notification of award in March or May. But we're going to keep moving ahead, trying to purchase that corner property. We're going to continue to solidify our relationships with our current and future partners out there, perhaps working with Drive Time to get access to that parking lot adjacent or just north of Kia, so that we can use that to keep that as hardscape and keep the park as soft as possible. We'll formally dedicate the property as parkland, and we'll get votes from people in the neighborhood about what they'd like the park to be named this weekend. Once we get that a solid leader in that, we'll take it to the Parks Board and then bring it to City Council for action. And then we'll try to identify additional funding sources to help us get to the project, but we will make this happen. This will give a park to over 4,600 people who don't have access to a park right now. And that will take us well over the 70% mark and giving us a trampoline towards that 85% goal by 2025. And do you have any questions? And thanks for listening.
Council, any questions? Very thorough as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have an overview of the complete street policy, and we have traffic engineer Sagar Medicetti and senior planner Jonathan Beckham to conduct the presentation.
And Mayor, before they get started, I just wanted to give a little background. So this was, the basis of this was based on Councilman Green's pitch at a previous retreat, and they'll go through that. We have asked John and Sagar, who are two of our outstanding upcomers in our organization, to give the presentation, but also to back up and do a little bit of background for the benefit of the two council members who weren't on the council at the time. So they're going to give some background and then move into what the Complete Streets policy presentation, or policy that we're recommending will be.
Thank you, Claire. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm John Beckham, Senior Planner with the city.
I'm Sagar Medicetti, Traffic Engineering with the Engineering Department.
So tonight we'd like to define what complete streets are and talk about how they fit in the city of Louisville. We want to discuss why Louisville needs an effective complete streets policy. We want to go over the proposed policy we've been working on and then talk through any potential next steps. So a complete street is essentially defined as a street that are built to accommodate all types of users of all ages and abilities. I think it's easy to forget that over 33% of residents do not drive a car. This includes children under the age of 16 and elderly as well. So we want to ensure that all streets are complete and will allow all these types of users. So a quick history of complete streets in the city of Louisville. In 2011, the Main and Mill Streetscape project had complete streets as a part of it in a COG grant application. In 2017, City Council adopted a complete streets policy. This was in line with the NTC COG grants. But COG now says the policy will no longer qualify because it's too limited in scope. And then in the 2020 council retreat, Councilwoman Kristen Green pitched for equitable mobility. Equitable mobility is a large component of a complete street policy. So where does complete streets fit into the city of Louisville? Well, it's found in many of the long-range plans that have previously been approved by the city council. This includes the 10-minute walk to a park, ensuring that all residents have a safe access to parks, the sustainability master plan, which looks at less reliance on automobiles, all the way down to the 2025 vision plan update, which mentions complete streets by name in the Old Town Big Move, and elements are found in other big moves. So it's important to note that there's no singular design of what a complete street looks like. It's all dependent on the community context. The picture I have up right now is what a complete street would look like in a more suburban setting. While on this sheet, this is what a complete street looks like in a more urban setting. So there's a lot of different elements that are in a complete street. It's not just roadways, bike lanes, or sidewalks. It's also talking about trees, street lights, ensuring that light pollution isn't an issue, making sure that all the utilities can function with these components down to the drainage and other green infrastructure.
The City of Louisville has already been incorporating complete streets elements in capital improvement street projects. In the next few slides, we'll present a few recently completed projects that incorporated complete street elements and a few projects in the design pipeline that are being designed as complete streets. Main Street and Mill Street project is a recently completed streetscape improvement project that built Main Street and Mill Street as complete streets. In this picture, in the slide, you can see the before and after picture of Mill Street looking north from Purnell Street. One of the important design features of complete streets is context sensitivity. That is that the streets need to fit the setting, the context they're in. Well, the context for Old Town is that we have shops, restaurants, offices, commercial land, commercial uses, and in this setting, people will not only be driving their cars, but they would also be walking, biking, using the wheelchairs and mass transit. Old Town is envisioned as a mixed-use development area where people will live, work, dine, and entertain. And Main Street and Mill Street are the major arteries running through the heart of Old Town that will serve this mixed-use development. John has mentioned that complete streets are about providing safe and comfortable access for all modes of transportation. With the Main and Mill project, walkability for pedestrians was improved by providing wider sidewalks that are offset from the travel lanes, by providing street lighting, by providing shade trees. Also, safety at intersections is improved by providing curb extensions and colored crosswalks. Bicyclists can operate in dedicated bike lanes and also have trail network connectivity to and from Old Town. Wheelchair users have ADA-compliant sidewalks and street crossings. Transit users have multimodal access to the Old Town Transit Station and to the bus stops. Cars and freight trucks also have a good level of service. In a sense, Main Street and Mill Street Improvements Project has facilitated the revitalization of Old Town. Leonard Street between College and Walters is another recently completed street that was built as a complete street. The context for Leonard Street is that it is only a block away from the Old Town Transit Station. In this photo, you can see Aura Old Town, which is an apartment complex with 285 units. Residents of Aura Old Town are only a quarter-mile walking or biking distance away from the Old Town train station. In this slide, you can see a before and after picture of Leonard Street. Prior to construction, Leonard Street was a very car-centric street that didn't have a curb and gutter or sidewalks. With the improvements, Leonard Street has wider sidewalks, on-street parking, shade trees, street lights, and curb extensions that provide multimodal access and traffic calming. Upcoming street projects that are being designed. Summit Avenue will serve as a spine for the Northern Gateway project. Northern Gateway project is envisioned as an urban village with 300 acres of land that will have wide open areas, water features, trails, mixed-use development, transit-oriented housing, and commercial uses. Summit Avenue is proposed as a tree-lined street with enhanced sidewalks that will serve this land use. West College Street from Wayne Frady Park to Mill Street has curb extensions at the intersection and at mid-block. On the right side of the slide, you can see the schematics showing what West College Street would look like at the intersection and at mid-blocks. East College Street with from Mill Street to Railroad Street with enhanced sidewalks and on-street bike lanes provides multimodal access to the Old Town train station. There's also a parking lane being added on the south side of College Street. Elm Street also features 6-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of the street that are buffered from the travel lanes by landscaping. Bicyclists will be operating by sharing the road with the travel lanes.
Well, initially working through this presentation, we identified Southwest Parkway as a potential complete street project. The triangle here in Louisville is one of the most dense areas in the city, and the location of the future city park, which park staff just went over. Right now, Southwest Parkway has 17-foot drive aisles, which is 5 feet over our standard 12-foot drive aisle. This really encourages faster traffic than the posted 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. And with the new park, we wanted to ensure that all the residents could safely get from where they live to this new park. With this, we wanted to implement a complete street that would lower the travel lanes, create some traffic calming devices, as well as enhanced pedestrian crossing. Right now, we received CDBG funds for the design of this and applied for funds from both Denton County Transit Authority's Transportation Reinvestment Program and the COGS Blue, Green, Gray grant, all for the design. Once the design is complete, this will be a future CIP project. So next, I'd like to go over why the city of Louisville needs an effective complete streets policy. So first, as mentioned before, we want to ensure that we're accounting for the mobility of all users, from kids walking to school all the way down to our emergency vehicles and freight. Second, we want to ensure that all new street design in the city of Louisville are safe. Pedestrian deaths are on the rise, both on a nationwide and all the way down to our city. We're getting an increased number of incidents of bicycle and pedestrian. We want to ensure that we're designing our streets with all users in mind and not forgetting creating unsafe atmospheres. Furthermore, Design to Complete Streets can implement CPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. This is effectively where you can design streets where they're safer by adding additional lighting or more eyes on the streets. Health is another reason we need an effective complete street policy. When we're only designing streets for cars, we're denying people the opportunity for active transportation. And people in walkable neighborhoods do complete more moderate intense physical activity than people who live in less walkable neighborhoods. This helps keep our citizens healthy, and it also increases the property values of homes in walkable areas. Equity is another large component of complete streets. We want to ensure that all communities can use our public right-of-way in the way in which they want to. Along with this is the cost burden of owning a car. If we can get a 3-car household the opportunity to go down to a 2-car household, or a 2-car household to 1-car household, we could save up to $10,000 a year to lower and moderate income households. Finally, having an effective long-range policy will ensure that we are implementing the goals of all the long-range plans that City Council has adopted. Complete streets are also tied to economic development. As mentioned before, property values go up in walkable neighborhoods, and employers are attracted to areas which have a variety of transportation options in the area. Finally, this ensures successful future street projects. Right now, we've seen successful complete street projects in Louisville. Sagar went over many we have in the future, but we want to make sure that these keep on happening in the city. Having a policy can ensure that we will continue to look at all of our street projects as complete streets. And then finally, additional funding opportunities are available when you have an effective policy, including mobility grants from the COG, the policy bundle, and future transportation funding like I discussed with the Southwest Parkway, including Transportation Reinvestment Program and the Blue, Green, Gray Grant. So now we'd like to discuss the proposed policy. First, with this new policy, we'll have a process for evaluating all streets. We require that all staff complete a complete street analysis with any new roadway projects. We want to ensure that all these are context sensitive. We're reaching out to the residents to ensure that we're building streets to what the residents desire. With this standardized process, we'd be implementing the checklist that would be completed with all street projects. The checklist I have up on the screen right now is what is used in Orlando. Our checklist would be very similar, where we'd be selecting the elements of complete streets that'd be included with all future projects. When a new road project is brought forward to the City Council, there'll be a complete street section talking about the components and reasons we can or cannot implement certain components. We also want to ensure that multiple departments are looking at our streets, past just engineering and public services, but down planning the parks to our DCTA and franchise utilities are all looking at our street projects. We want to ensure that the best practice design guidelines are used. If implemented, the policy will ensure that we're using these best practice design guidelines. And then we want to make sure that there's clear exceptions. Any exception to the complete street policy will have to be approved by the city engineer. Exceptions include such items as bicycles or pedestrians on areas where it's not necessary for them to be, or unsafe areas. If the cost is too high for a street project to include elements of complete streets, if there's not enough space for these elements, if there's conflicts with existing policies, or if the neighborhood does not want these elements.
What would complete streets look like on our typical streets from the thoroughfare plan? These are just examples, one among a menu of options. In this slide, you can see our typical 50-foot residential street. It is provided with wider 5-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of the street, and bicyclists are operating in the travel lane, sharing the road with vehicular traffic, as it is sparse on residential streets. The next example is a typical 100-foot P4D arterial street. In this slide, you can see that because arterial streets tend to have higher speed limits, the on-street bike lanes are provided with a buffer separating them from the travel lanes for safety, and then pedestrians are walking in the 6-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of the street while ensuring that, that the vehicular traffic has the travel lanes that it needs. What is the cost impact for providing complete streets? In the next couple of slides, we'll be discussing the remaining projects from the 2015 bond program, their suitability for providing complete streets, and what the projected cost impact would be. The first one is South Cowan Avenue from Main Street to Purnell Street. It is a good candidate for providing complete streets elements because of the residential land use. The cost of the project is $7.75 million. Providing complete streets elements could increase that cost by up to 30%. North Cowan Avenue is located from Jones Street to KCS Railroad. It is a moderate fit for providing complete streets. It has some commercial, because of the commercial land use. The cost for the project is $4.2 million. Again, the cost increase could be up to 30% for providing complete streets elements for that project. Valley Parkway and Civic Circle Drive are good candidates for providing complete streets because of the public uses, some commercial, and proximity to the residential subdivisions. The combined cost of these projects is $7 million. Adding complete streets elements could increase that cost by 20 to 50%, depending upon the extent of the scope. Railroad Street from Main Street to Business 121 has limited right-of-way. The land use is mostly industrial and some commercial, so there'll be a lot of truck traffic. For this reason, it is not a good fit for providing enhanced complete street elements. Louisville Valley 4 subdivision, generally located west of Garden Ridge Boulevard, north of Main Street, has a limited opportunity, maybe providing wider sidewalks and some traffic calming if needed. The cost of the project is $13 million. Providing complete streets elements could increase that cost by 2% to 5%. Finally, Indian Oaks neighborhood, located near the Thrive Rec Center, is a neighborhood rehab project. Many residents do not want sidewalks or curb and gutter, so it is not a good fit for providing enhanced complete streets elements. There would be no cost. So for the remaining projects from the 2015 bond program, the cost impact depends on the scope and extent of complete streets. It could range anywhere from 2% to 50%.
So if council gives us direction to proceed with an enhanced complete street policy, our next steps would first be to draft the new policy, bring it to council for approval. Then we would draft a complete street checklist as well, bring that with the policy, which all of our street projects will implement this checklist moving forward. Want to ensure that we're training all staff to ensure they're aware of what complete street is and the benefit of these streets. We're currently working at widening the base sidewalk standards. That's in our upcoming code overhaul. The thoroughfare plan update has already been budgeted for financial year 21-22. Currently, our thoroughfare plan is just a map. We would like to see the thoroughfare plan function as a mobility plan. This mobility plan would give consideration to all users. It would mention our complete street policy by name. It would update our street sections, provide a menu of options for each of our street types. It would bring together the mobility provisions of already adopted long-range plans. So we would ensure that we're looking at our Trails Master Plan, our 10-minute walk, or sustainability with all of our roadway projects, and identify opportunities to complete existing streets, much like Southwest Parkway, as discussed earlier in this presentation. Finally, we would list performance measures and incorporate them into the city's metrics dashboard. These measures would be items such as number of curb ramps installed, linear feet of bike lanes built, linear feet of sidewalks built or enhanced, things of that nature. Finally, we are both here happy to answer any questions City Council may have.
I'd like to add a clarification on this. So really, this is not, as John and Sagar had explained, this is not a one-size-fits-all. What it is a process. So it's very similar to, council had directed staff to do an analysis every time we did a public road project about undergrounding utilities. And in that is a financial analysis that gets presented to the council, whether or not that's going to be in the scope. And that's the same thing here. We're really creating a process where every road is assumed on the front that we should be trying to achieve complete streets. But then once we look at it, we determine what factors fit context sensitive. So is it just wider sidewalks here, or does it mean we're going to have a bike lane there? And then if it's determined that complete streets don't work, those exceptions could be for cost. It could be related to it just doesn't fit. It's a residential neighborhood and the neighborhood doesn't want it. Or it could be for various other reasons. The city engineer would make that determination, but then have to present it to council in their memo when we hire that design, so that council has a say in that. So I know those numbers, looking at those numbers, and you're seeing a 50% increase for a multi-million-dollar project, it's like, oh my goodness, like, are we gonna stop doing more street projects? Like, what does that look like? Ultimately, those will come on a case-by-case basis back to council when we're making looking at the budget through the CIP projects in the Blue Ribbon process. And we'll look at that in relation to that. But we did want council to know that it does have a financial impact on your streets.
Well, of course, I have some comments. I am just so excited that this is moving forward. Everything you said is everything that I tried to pull together. You said it much more eloquently today than I did in my 2020 council pitch. So I really appreciate that. The help with the articulation. At the time when I made that pitch, I thought it was very, very important, not just in areas like Old Town or in some of our areas where we're talking about our more dense urban centers that we're planning for, but I was also looking a lot at the DCTA routes. Things have changed since then. So, and I believe that the changes that have been made with the implementation of the GO Zone process makes this even more important, because now our entire city is a place where you can catch a public transportation service. So we're going to be having more people trying to walk and navigate our streets in a non-vehicle. Which I believe just makes this even more important for even more streets in Louisville. And so for that reason, I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very excited about the approach of looking at on a case-by-case basis and what makes sense. And, you know, we don't have to do the whole enchilada on every single one of them. It's really more what makes sense here. And I have a great appreciation for that. And I also love that we're pulling in the residents in the very, very beginning versus instead of going to the neighborhood at the very, very end and saying, okay, we've got this 90% design, here's what we're going to give you, and then them saying, well, wait, that's not what we want. So this just really, I think, is the smart way to do it. And as far as the cost increases go, of course, with prices being what they are today, you know, that sounds a little scary, but I believe there's somewhere in between putting back what's there and putting in the full-blown complete streets. I feel like within the budget we can come up with a good design that meets the needs of the area. Maybe we have to scale it back some, just depending on what we have available. But I think it's workable and doable, and I'm just excited that we're making the effort to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, since Councilwoman Green stole everything, I was going to say good job. Great presentation. I do like the idea. I do think it's important that we talk to the residents in different neighborhoods to make sure, because there's no need to waste time. If they don't want the sidewalks, that makes that much easier. I think although we do see cost increases for those projects, I think where we'll see savings is when we have to redo those streets, because you have less traffic lanes, it'll be more walking lanes, and fixing that later down the road will be a little bit cheaper, and an investment toward our future, toward a healthier Louisville. So thank you guys for the presentation. I'm all for it.
I'm all for it too, and I think Kristen said everything. I'm not just going to talk for the sake of talking. I mean, I can to use up some time, but I'm not going to. She actually said everything that needed to be said, and great presentation. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I agree with everything that Councilman Green and Eric Councilmember Green and Jones said. I have nothing to add. I'm all for it.
Same here. I couldn't add anything further than what Councilwoman Green said, so it's all sounds good.
Do we need to give direction?
So by being positive about it and kind of giving them that's what we're doing. There's not a vote going on or anything like that. It's just, should they go back and put more time into this? And I think that's an overwhelming yes.
So.
I do want to say what I think really thrills me the most, because we do it so well, is that interdepartmental linking that you're talking about, where we're going to the Trails Master Plan and we're looking at other pieces, and we're not just building a road to move cars. I think we do that really well in this city, and I think that's going to create more creative options for our residents, and quite frankly, I think more creative uses of our tax dollars. So I'm excited. You know, I walk and travel through the complete streets that we've done so far, and I see the traffic calming because there's more going on. So people are slowing down to see what's there, versus, you know, my neighborhood where they'll go zipping through because it's just a wide open street. So it's exciting to see. I think you guys did a great job on the presentation, so thank you. I do have one thing to read into the minutes. We do have one comment from Mr. Bill France, and he submitted this as an e-comment. It was forwarded to the appropriate staff members as well, and his comment was to please require that curb ramps built in city-led street projects be required to use a standard design as provided in the city standard drawings for curb ramps, or justify why not. Many curb ramps built 2013 through 2021 do not look anything like a city standard drawing. Examples: Southwest Summit at Civic Circle, Southeast Sweet Gum at Magnolia, Northeast Westwood at Marywood. Curb ramps are more than 30 feet from intersection, ahead of stop sign, 1 or 2 car lengths away from the corner. Does not comply with any standard. I typically, staff handles these types of comments, so I'm sure you'll get back to Mr. Franz on these, but appreciate his comment and submittal to council. With that, gentlemen, I don't think we have anything more for you. I appreciate your time.
Well, we look forward to bringing the updated policy to you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Council, at this time, we're going to discuss the regular agenda items and consent agenda items. I have one asterisk I wanted to put here. Mr. Matt Greblianis from HR is available for our evaluation of staff at closed session tonight, but I would like to give council the opportunity to let him leave early if you don't think he's needed at our discussions.
I don't think he's...
He should stay as late. No, I'm joking. I think we're fine because Matt got me what I needed a few last month.
Any other council? I know Matt's available and is excited to stay as long as possible, but if we don't need him, I'd like to let him go. Okay. We're good. Super. Matt, keep your cell phone handy. With that, I'm not going to go through the consent agenda item by item. I'm just going to ask, does anyone on council have a consent item that they would like to pull or have questions on? Those are items 1 through 18. Any questions or comments on regular hearing item 19? Item 20? Item 21? On item 22, I did have one comment regarding the Parks Board, in that it might be advantageous for us to hold off on appointing this one and wait until after the annexation of Castle Hills. Since that will have a tremendous impact on our parks, we might find that there's a resident from that part of the city that it would be relevant. And if we do appoint tonight, we wouldn't have the opportunity for basically another year unless somebody stepped down.
I'd also like to say that we really need to look at, in some policies or something when we're setting setting policies, or I haven't really taken a hard look at it. When we're appointing people, if they've resigned from a board at least twice, I think there needs to be a certain amount of time before they're appointed to another one.
Fair conversation to have. Although that would also pop up, I think, maybe moving forward when they show. But yeah, there's definitely a conversation in there. Other questions or comments on 22? All right, with that, we'll have a small recess until 7, and then we will start our meeting.
Okay, what about 23? Okay, that's it.
Oh, sorry, I missed 23. I skipped 23 and 24.
And
I tried to get ahead of it.
And
23 and 24?
And 25?
Maybe 25. If there's a 25. And of course,
Okay,
closed
we got a
session.
bit of a break then.
All right. Yeah. We bought ourselves 8 minutes. We'll reconvene at 7 o'clock for the meeting. All right, good evening. It is 7 p.m. We have a quorum. If you all would please join me, and Mayor Pro Tem Green will be giving the invocation, followed by the Pledge of America to the flags by me. Mayor Green, or Pro Tem Green.
Please join me in a moment of contemplation. Amen. Thank you.
Please join me in the pledges to our flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right. First up is public hearing, consideration of the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. In accordance with state law and the city charter, a public hearing is being held on the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 budget, available on the city's website, in the city secretary's office, and at the library, to provide an opportunity for citizen comment. The proposed budget includes changes made by city council at the budget workshop held on August 7th. An agenda item to adopt the budget is also on tonight's city council meeting. The public hearing and vote on the tax rate will be held at the council meeting on September 20th, 2021. It's a recommendation that the city council conduct the public hearing. Do we have anyone here to comment?
We received no cards, Mayor.
Thank you, City Secretary. I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those, please vote. All right, we will have another public hearing on the 20th. Public hearing number 2, consider an ordinance granting a zone change from Planned Development Mixed Use, PDMU District, and Light Industrial, LI District, to Planned Development Mixed Use, PDMU District, and 2 associated variance requests on 10.383 acres legally described as Delancey Addition, Block A, Lot 2, and Old Town Station Addition, Block A, Lot 1, located at 421 East College Street, as requested by Tommy Rodas, Toll Brothers Incorporated, the applicant, on behalf of Red Ev X. That is just the hardest name to figure out how they pronounce it, but there you go. LP and Adrian Moore, the property owners. Administrative comments are that the zone change replaces an existing multifamily planned development to allow 430 multifamily units and 23,000 square feet of retail-ready area. The following variances are requested. A, to reduce required parking to 1.4 spaces per unit, and B, to allow a 6-foot decorative metal fence with live screening along property lines. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended a unanimous approval 6-0 on August 3rd, 2021, with additional language regarding accessibility requirements that have been accepted by the applicant and included in the planned development. It's a recommendation that City Council approve the ordinance and 2 associated variance requests as set forth in the captions above. Available for questions are Michelle Berry, our planning manager, and Tommy Rodas, Toll Brothers Incorporated, the applicant. Council, are there any questions? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote. The public hearing is closed, 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve as per the caption.
All right, I have a motion
Second?
and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Louisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning approximately 10.383 acres being legally described as the Delancey Addition Block A, Lot 2, and Old Town Station Addition Block A, Lot 1, located at 421 East College Street, from light industrial district zoning and planned development mixed-use district zoning to planned development mixed-use district zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the public interests and general welfare demand this zoning change and amendment therein made, providing for repeal or severability of penalty and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item D, Visitors Citizens Forum. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than to individual council members or staff. Speakers should speak clearly and state their name and address prior to beginning their remarks. Speakers will be allowed 5 minutes for testimony. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. I do have a request to appear by Mr. John Lane. If you could please state your address for the record.
1602 Cedar Keys Drive, Louisville.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so last time I was here, I came expecting an open dialogue with City Council and the mayor. I happen to be unaware that state law prohibits elected officials from discussing topics with their constituents not on the agenda. Disappointing as that may be, today I'm going to discuss only a minority of my grave concerns about the social Lysenkoist rot that has infected Louisville under the guise of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want to focus on the term equity. This is a Marxist word. Attached to it are utopian dreams of a world with completely equal outcomes. A communist term that means something very different from the equity and shared humanity that Dr. King spoke of. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The famous words we all know clearly spoke of equality, of merit, of a shared humanity, of stressing that one is a man who simply happens to be black or white or Asian or whatever else. Equity, and especially equity in the context of race, demands that we abandon those principles. Equity demands that we first judge the person by their skin color, sexual orientation, gender, or whatever other special interest group is woven into the critical theory and intersectional fabric. Only then, once the so-called positionality of a person is judged, may the equitable work of critical theory take place. Merit be damned. The infamous critical theorists who either pushed this ideological zealotry or helped invent it, such as Kimberly Crenshaw, Angela Davis, Derek Bell, and Herbert Marcuse, these so-called champions of equity, have consistently decried the civil rights movement for supposedly subverting liberationism, communism, and by another name, in favor of a white, liberal, bourgeois democracy. In short, those who crafted and espouse equity, specifically racial equity, condemn the civil rights movement because it robbed them of their chance for not a workers' revolution, but a cultural, racial, color revolution, which they believed would usher in a truly equitable communist utopia, also known as liberationism. I did get a response from the wonderful city manager and city manager's office, which was fairly enlightening. I was seeking the curriculum and materials used by Ms. Miller, the DEI commissar, to spread the religion of equity. To my surprise, no such materials exist as of yet. Given that the DEI commissar has not produced any curriculum or materials to disseminate this ideology at this time, and apparently had none prepared prior to taking the position, on what merit was she selected? It would take me no more than a week of ripping off the various critical theorists such as Kendi, Davis, Crenshaw, Bell, and others, and mashing together the various nonsensical and paralogical ideas of neo-Marxism, postmodernism, and critical theory to come up with at least a basic DEI training plan. In fact, This may make me not only more qualified than the current DEI manager at her role, but perhaps overqualified in the sense that I have studied the Kool-Aid without actually drinking it, making me a more objective observer of this racial Marxism, thus more capable of objectively informing people what this Hegelian religion of diversity, equity, and inclusion contains and what it hopes to achieve. Another disturbing phrase that keeps cropping up in all the DEI Listen, Learn, Lead literature is uncovering unconscious biases. This consciousness raising is explicitly Hegelian and Marxism. Marx sought to raise the working class consciousness to the evils of capitalism so that they may seize the means of production in a violent revolution and all other nonsense that comes with the general strike mythology. Addressing or uncovering unconscious biases equals attempting to raise people's consciousness, but not to a proletarian workers' revolutionary consciousness, but to a critical race consciousness of liberationism and equity. Now, before anyone decries my accusations as not critical race theory because it's a law theory, if you have read and studied the totalitarian literature of the critical theorists, then you should know that there is no critical theory without praxis. This praxis, as applied principles, is seen blatantly in the literature and goals of the DEI office and the unelected bureaucracy guiding the Listen, Learn, Lead Mayor's Commission. This is unacceptable and corrosive, purposely corrosive to society, as can be seen with Marcuse's new sensibility, which seeks to breed psychopathologies into people so that they cannot live in and thus disrupt via discontent and overthrow the current bourgeois, liberal, democratic system. The Mayor's Commission, Listen, Learn, Lead, and the DER Commissar, Ms. Miller's office, should be immediately shut down as racist, discriminatory, and as a violation of the First Amendment rights, seeing as the city of Louisville is utilizing taxpayer resources for the propagation of a virulent, Gnostic, Hegelian religion called equity. As an anti-theist, I would just as strongly reject Catholicism or the teaching of Muhammad and Allah being spread throughout my city government in such a manner. I know some of you are registered Republicans, perhaps with higher political aspirations. With how wildly unpopular critical race theory, equity, etc., are among the Republican and particularly right populist base, I'll ask of you, is this the political baggage you want attached to your career? And I think that's my time.
Thank you, sir. All right. I do not have any other comment cards for
No, sir, we do not.
Visitor Citizen Forum. All right, next, item E, consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so request. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card or e-comment must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. Any comments on the consent agenda?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote. Consent agenda passes 5-0. All right. Next up, item 19, consideration of an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2021-2022 operating budget. The proposed operating budget for all funds has been prepared by staff and reviewed by the City Council. Approval of this ordinance adopts an operating budget for those funds beginning October 1st, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022. A draft budget document is available for public review at the City Secretary's office, the library, and on the city website. It's recommended that the City Council approve the proposed ordinance as set forth in the caption above. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the proposed ordinance as set forth.
All right.
Second.
City Attorney.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, adopting and approving a budget for the City of Louisville, Texas for the year beginning October 1st, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022, providing for an effective date and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Meredith, do you want to second that? Second. All right, thank you, sir. Council, if you'd please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 20, Consideration of an ordinance of the City of Louisville approving the 2021-2022 Annual Service Plan Update to the Service and Assessment Plan and Assessment Roll for Public Improvements for the Josie Lane Public Improvement District with Chapter 372 Texas Local Government Code as amended. On October 6, 2014, the city created Josie Lane Public Improvement District for construction of street and water wastewater improvements in a designated area located along Josie Lane north of FM 544 and south of Windhaven Drive. An update to the service plan and assessment roll must be considered and approved by City Council. This plan identifies public improvement costs to be provided by the PID, along with the manner of assessing the property in the PID and the assessment roll. It also incorporates new legal requirements adopted by the Texas legislature that are effective September 1st, 2021. It's recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the City of Louisville approving the 2021-2022 Annual Service Plan Update for the Service and Assessment Plan and Assessment Roll for Public Improvements for the Josie Lane Public Improvement District with Chapter 372 Texas Local Government Code as amended, providing a repeal or severability and an effective date and declaring an emergency.
And I'll entertain a second. Councilmember Kay, did you want to second that?
A second.
Okay, thank you. Council, if you could please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Yeah, these two are a little bit different, so we got the attorney speak in there between the motion and the second. All right. Item 21, consideration of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, approving a negotiated settlement between the Atmos Cities Steering Committee, ACSC, and Atmos Energy Corporation, Mid-Tex Division, regarding the company's 2021 rate review mechanism filing, declaring existing rates to be unreasonable, adopting tariffs that reflect rate adjustments consistent with the negotiated settlement, finding the rates to be set by the attached settlement tariffs to be just and reasonable and in the public interest, approving an attached exhibit establishing a benchmark for pensions and retiree medical benefits, approving an attached exhibit regarding amortization of regulatory liability, requiring the company to reimburse ACSC's reasonable rate-making expenses, determining that this resolution was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, adopting a savings clause, declaring an effective date, and requiring delivery of this resolution to the company and the ACSC's legal counsel. The city, along with 171 other Mid-Texas cities served by Atmos Energy Corporation, Mid-Tex Division, Atmos Mid-Tex or Company, is a member of the Atmos Cities Steering Committee, ACSC. On or about April 1st, 2021, the company filed a rate request pursuant to the RRM tariff adopted by ACSC members. The company claimed that its cost of service in a test year ending December 31st, 2020 entitled it to additional system-wide revenues of $43.4 million. Application of the standards set forth in ACSC's RRM tariff required Atmos to reduce its request to $40.5 million. After the company reviewed ACSC's consultant's report, ACSC's executive committee and the company negotiated a settlement whereby the company would receive an increase of $22.78 million from ACSC cities, but with a 2-month delay in the effective date until December 1st, 2021. This should save ACSC cities approximately $3.8 million. The effective date for new rates is December 1, 2021. ACSC members should take action approving the resolution before October 1st. Recommended that the City Council approve the resolution as set forth in the caption above. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution as set forth in the caption.
And a second?
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote.
Councilwoman Kate, can you vote?
Oh, I'm over here making all my notes, not even
you.
paying attention.
Thank you.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 22, consideration of acceptance of resignations of Sui Ling from place number 1 on the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, CDBG, and Kathy Falkenberry from place number 4 on the Park Board. Declare vacancies exist on the Park Board and the CDBG, and consideration of appointments to place number 1 on the CDBG and place number 4 on Park Board. Staff has received resignation notices from Sui Ling and Kathy Falkenberry from their respective boards, committees, corporations. As these positions' term limits are not currently up for appointment, the City Council will need to declare vacancies on place number 1 in the CDBG and place number 4 on the Park Board. Data sheets of applicants interested in serving on these two boards have been included for City Council review. It's recommended that the City Council accept the resignations, declare vacancies as set forth, and consider appointments for both place number 1 and place number 4 on CDBG and Park Board respectfully.
I'd like to move that we accept the resignations on CDBG, place number 1, and the Park Board, place number 4, and that we postpone placement on the Park Board, number 4, until after the annexation of Castle Hills. And this is going to be a long motion, and that we appoint Joyce White to the CDBG committee.
Would you also like to declare that there are vacancies?
There are vacancies, I could say that.
All right, council, we'll have a conversation on that particular appointment.
I had another thought on this, the CDBG, CBDG, excuse me. Sorry about that.
Say it 5 times fast.
I was actually, I was looking over we had quite a few candidates in this poll. I always like to look at the existing demographics, whether it be age, gender, race, profession, and even geographic location. I noticed that Jorge Wilson is a Castle Hills resident, and also had some good professional background that I think maybe would be helpful on this committee. And I picked him as my leading candidate for the CBDG committee.
Councilwoman Green, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Green, I think they may have 2 Castle Hill members already on this committee. Let me check really quick and make sure, because they only allowed 2 Castle Hills appointments on this board.
Okay, that would
give
be
me
helpful to
Give me
know.
1 second and I'll look.
I may have missed that.
Do we have any other comments while City Secretary is doing some?
We have no African American sitting on that board at this time.
Yes, they do already have 2 Castle Hills residents sitting on this
Okay,
board.
so then I withdraw that.
Okay. Any other comments? Going once? I'll entertain a second.
I second the motion of Councilwoman Cade.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, actually, all council, please vote. I'll get used to Granicus at some point. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, council, appreciate that. And staff, you've got direction to bring the Park Board back?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Item 23, consideration of a variance to the Crown Center development regulations to allow a private vehicular route alternative street section for a proposed multifamily development in Denton County Freshwater Supply District 1G at the southwest corner of State Highway 121 Business and the State Highway 121 Frontage Road, Sam Rayburn Tollway, as requested by Bright Realty, the owner. On February 17, 2020, the City Council approved 11 variance requests coupled with conditions and the detailed development standards depicted in Exhibit A for Crown Center, a pedestrian-oriented mixed-use development on approximately 140 acres located within the Denton County Freshwater Supply District 1G at the southwest corner of State Highway 121 Business and the State Highway 121 Frontage Road, Sam Rayburn Tollway. The first project that is now in review is a multifamily development in the northwesternmost parcel of Crown Center. Bright Realty now requests approval of an alternative street section as shown in the attached variance exhibit for the private vehicular route on the north and west of the proposed multifamily development. It's recommended that the council approve the requested variances set forth in the caption above, allowing an alternative street section in the area shown in the attached variance exhibit. Ms. Claire Powell, Assistant City Manager, and Michelle Berry, AICP Planning Manager, are both available for questions. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the requested variance as set forth in the caption, allowing the alternative street section in the area shown.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you'd please vote. Item passes 5-0. Item 24, consideration of a resolution extending the declaration of local disaster for public health emergency until 11:59 p.m. on September 20th, 2021. On February 17, 2021, Mayor Rudy Durham, acting in accordance with authority granted to him under the City Charter and Code of Ordinances and under Section 418.108A of the Texas Government Code, declared a local state of disaster for public health emergency due to concerns related to COVID-19, the disaster declaration, which the Louisville City Council subsequently ratified, supported, and continued until 11:59 p.m. on September 13, 2021. Ongoing evaluation of circumstances related to the virus and the updated recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control and the Texas Department of State Health Services indicate that the conditions necessitating the disaster declaration have and will continue to exist for a period extending beyond September 13, 2021. It's recommended that the City Council consider the resolution as set forth in the caption above. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve item number 24 as set in the caption.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Item passes 5-0. Thank you, Council. Next up, we have reports, and I think we start with Councilmember Green when we get to the council seats, correct?
I actually think I went first last time.
Did you go first last time? Okay.
I believe I did.
Yes, she did.
But I can just
Perfect.
go ahead and go. I have
Now,
nothing to
we'll
report.
let Councilmember Jones go, and then you
I'm done.
you can be the last one. Oh, you're done? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. We'll start with staff.
I don't have anything, Mayor. Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Thank you.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Mayor, there's a quarterly investment report that's provided as part of our investment policy. It's for your information only. No action is needed. Other than that, I have no report.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, 2 items. One, first and foremost, the lake level is at 521.7 for those that are interested. I also want to congratulate the City of Louisville and let you all know that we did receive for the second year in a row the Gold Level Award from the DFW Clean Cities Commission on our fuel saving and pollution reducing efforts for fleet vehicles during 2021. So this is the second consecutive year we've been gold. Prior to that, we were silver in 2019 and bronze level in 2015, 2017, and 2018. And so fuel savings and pollution reduction are among the many initiatives that our fleet division takes part of, and it is directly related to the sustainability big move in the Louisville 2025 vision plan. So I'm very proud of our folks down there.
That's a great job. Mr. Conkey.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Have some more state-level recognition for Louisville's work that I'd like to share with you. At the end of August, the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers held its annual awards banquet, and Louisville received not 1, not 2, but 3 awards during that presentation. We received a first-place Tammy Award in the Special or One-Time Video Program category for our documentary, Louisville Looks Back, Texas International Pop Festival. That's actually the 4th state, regional, or national award that documentary has received. And it was produced by Matthew Thornberry, our videographer here on staff. We received a 2nd place award in the planning category for our 2020 Census Complete Count Committee work. That was intended throughout 2019 and 2020 to encourage people to take part in the census. And we received a 3rd place award for special publication for Marco's Big Move, which was the children's book that was written by a children's librarian, illustrated by a local student, and was distributed through 2nd grade classes in LISD to educate those students and through them, their parents, about the Louisville 2025 vision plan and the update process that we completed last year. So we're very pleased to receive the recognitions for the work that we tried to do, keeping the residents of Louisville informed.
Thank you. Chief? Councilmember Jones?
No, only thing I want to add is it was great to see some of our staff members getting up there today. Usually they do very short presentations, but they had a very wide-ranging presentation. I thought it was very good, and I look forward to seeing more of those from our staff to give them opportunity to come before the council and present to us.
It was nice. It really was. They did a great job. Are you done?
What's that?
I said, you finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Really? I just want to say thank you to the citizens and the Highland Village mayor and Lake City's mayors and our mayor and Bob Troyer showed up for something that was put together in 2 days. We had quite a turnout, and it had a lot of good feedback on it, on a walk to remember for the 9/11 across the halfway across the 35 bridge. Lake City's Meadows in the middle. So that was kind of neat. Ended up being over 200 people there. So, and it was amazing, right when we started, we had a flyover, 4 World War II planes. And at the very beginning, they flew over. Everybody kind of looked at me like, and then when we ended it, did you notice that they flew over the opposite direction? That was awesome. But it was nice to share that with some true blue Americans that really, really love our country.
And it was
thank y'all all for participating.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. We're going to do this again.
Yeah,
And we'll be able to plan it more than 2 days in advance. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Oh, and the PBR that's going to be here this weekend. That's exciting. That's really exciting.
Councilmember Meredith?
Yes, Mayor, I've got some library activities from September 13th through October 3rd. September 14th, we have Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. Tuesday, September 14th from 6 to 7. It's a come and go event. Tuesday, September 14th, also from 6:30 to 7:30 is the Medicare workshop. You can learn about Medicare types A, B, C, and D. And on Wednesday, September 15th, 4:30 to 5:30, tween scene for ages 9 to 12, science, art, technology, and a ticket is required for entry for this program.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Troyer?
Yes, I have several things going on at the Louisville Grand Theater during the next couple weeks. I'm going to mess up this name, I'm sure, but on September 17th, Simon Karakulidi is going to be doing a piano concert presented by the Louisville Lake Symphony every Friday evening, starting at 6 o'clock. The acoustic jam presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville takes place, and as I've said before, if you haven't been there for that, it's a real joy to be there and participate and just listen. And there will be a songwriters presentation coming up again at the end of October. And the theme of that one is going to be spooky. So anyway, then activities going on at the theater, Val Art Talk, Working with Glass, presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville on Tuesday, September 14th. And there are several art exhibitions going on, Dreaming of Art, an exhibition by Alfredo Staben, Visual Art League of Louisville. That is going on through September 18th, this coming Saturday. Into the Resting Place Art and Poetry exhibition by Yoon Soo Nam, presented by the City of Louisville, through Saturday, September 18th. And then Western Roundup, presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville, September 25th through October 23rd. And yes, the PBR is coming up, and Western Days. So, two great events for the city.
It's beginning to feel like fall with the way the calendar is stacking up. So first, I want to thank all of staff, because I know these next couple of months get incredibly hectic, and whether that's our public works team, our parks teams, our police, our fire, I know y'all are working really, really hard to make sure that we get to enjoy all these wonderful things and events that we have during this time of year. So it's really exciting. A couple of things to add. On this Wednesday at 7 p.m. at Thrive, I will be doing a Meet the Mayor and an update. So if you're interested, come on out. It'll be from 7 to no later than 8. We will make it cognizant of your time. I've heard that we may be live streaming it as well, so we'll see if that works out or not. But this is the first one. We plan to do these quarterly, just to keep people involved and give them another way to connect with their city. Next week, of course, we'll have council on Monday, the 20th as well because of the holiday skip. There is a Castle Hills Wine Walk on the 23rd, so I'd encourage y'all, if you get a chance, to go out and meet some of our soon-to-be fellow residents of Louisville. I will be out there, and I think I have a couple of folks from staff who are going to be supporting me there as well, so look forward to having you there. And then, of course, on the 24th and 25th, Western Days, so we're all very excited about that. With that, we're going to move into closed session. So in accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Section 551.072, Real Estate Property Acquisition, Section 551.072, Personnel, regarding City Secretary Julie Wooster, City Attorney Elizabeth Plaster, Chief Municipal Court Judge Brian Holman, and alternate municipal court judges, and Section 551.087, Economic Development, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We're going to reconvene back into our meeting. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple motions. We have agreed to increases in salary for our city secretary of a total of 5%, for our city attorney at a compensation of 5%, for our municipal judge 3%, and 0% for our alternate municipal judges. Do I need to do these together, or?
And you could, yeah, if you could add the other piece in there too.
And additionally, I move to amend Liz Plaster's employment agreement by waiving 100% of the employee cost of retiree health insurance until such a time as she reaches the age of 65 and is eligible for Medicare.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Council, if you would please vote.
Oh, I didn't.
Sure. Aye.
Aye.
Do we not have, we don't have it on Granicus?
Well, sometimes we do it that way and sometimes we don't.
I think this is the first time we've had Granicus to actually do this particular vote.
Yeah.
So here we go. We've got motion passes 5-0. Thank you, council. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.